everybody. I'm an atheist, and I tell you what, being an atheist on a hot day makes me really thirsty. So I can't wait to take a drink of this lovely, refreshing root beer. Join me, won't you? Oh! Oh, that makes me so angry! I can't believe that this would spew all over the place like that.
Right, so you're suggesting that we compare the people who went on riot sprees and looting to cans of soda. Okay, the people who went on the riot sprees, this is just a horrible analogy. The people who went on the riot sprees could have done otherwise and had the capacity to understand what they were doing was wrong, had the capacity for empathy, to empathize with the people they were stealing from and the livelihoods they were ruining, and had the ability to refrain from what they were doing. It would be true that, yes, they had electrochemical reactions going on in their head, making them do what they did, but their whole system was far more complex than a soda. They had the capacity to do otherwise. The root beer you're shaking doesn't. It can't not froth up when you shake it like that. Terrible analogy.
We want to go back to old traditional values of nurturing soda cans so that they don't fizz. I mean, if they're gonna fizz, let's be honest, they're gonna fizz. And who are we to say that they shouldn't?
No, it's not going to necessarily fizz, as you put it. They'll fizz, they'll loot if they don't have empathy for other people, if they're abused, if their parents are absent and they get in with gangs and their gangs become their family, and within the gangs it's cool to go and loot, then they will fizz. I don't even like saying this is such a terrible comparison, but if you nurture children well, if you teach them right from wrong and raise them properly, then they will have that respect for other people and they'll have that empathy for other people and they won't want to loot. And as for who are we to tell them otherwise, well, we're people and we have rights and we can be looted and we can have our businesses or our homes destroyed.
What's going on over here? What is that? Oh my goodness!
You just took the Lord's name in vain. Well, actually, no, don't worry, you didn't. Only by your own standards you did, though. Taking the Lord's name in vain is when you say that you swear by God that you'll do something and then you don't do it. That's really what it meant in the Bible to say taking the Lord's name in vain. But you yourself did try and make those kids feel guilty about themselves in about 3 or 4 videos back when you said, have you ever taken the Lord's name in vain? And you tried to get past it at that time by saying, have you ever said, oh my God? Well, shame on you for trying to manipulate those kids' mind, and shame on you for being a hypocrite and doing exactly what you told them they shouldn't. Good job.
That justice and punishment are really just stupid ideas to begin with. After all, they really are just vestiges of our evolutionary history. They're really just delusions of the mind because, after all, there is no objective moral standard. I mean, really, we're just chemicals and animals that got together over billions of years, and of course we're going to fizz the way we're going to fizz, and even if you get angry at fizzing going on this way, I mean, even you getting angry at other people fizzing, well, you're just fizzing in your own way, and fizz is cool. Fizz is cool. So,
I'm sorry, what is this? Find me an atheist who says that punishment and justice are just stupid vestiges of evolution and a delusion of the mind. Regardless of where they come from, they're useful because of their practical application of how they can conform society to protect the rights of individuals. You do raise an interesting point about the objective morality, as obnoxious as you are, unfortunately, though. Which, that's a fair point. Some atheists do believe in objective morality. I'm not sold on it myself. When I was having this discussion with atheists in a chat room, the ones who believed in or suggested that we had an objective morality ended up describing more of what the human mind has a propensity to do. But either way, even if it is just our opinion, and yes, it is, our subjective morals, we can still be angry and upset about watching people bring harm to others. Atheists and theists alike, it's not like they have to think through every bit of feeling they have and explain why it exists. It's just, you see people having their businesses smashed, you see buildings getting torched on fire and people being put in danger, and you just feel, oh, that's awful, and that's why you get upset and you rant about it.
Can you tell me what is the difference in a materialist worldview? What is the difference between a bunch of chemicals in a soda can, or a bottle, and a bunch of chemicals in a skull?
Well, I can answer that. I think what you have to look at is not what all the chemicals are in themselves, but what the end results yield. Our big brains, with all their electrochemical reactions going on, end up with a result of a consciousness which has the capacity to suffer, in the case of the victims, and has the capacity for people to be able to comprehend what they can do and what they should and shouldn't do, and empathy. There's a potential for empathy in our brains to realize how much it hurts when we suffer, and thus we shouldn't bestow this suffering onto other people. That's why we get mad at people, and why we don't get mad at fucking sodas.
Well, according to the atheist worldview, there should be no difference whatsoever. Because you're just a chemical reaction, I'm just a chemical reaction. The things that are going on in our heads, our thought processes, are just chemical reactions. We're all just rearranged pond scum.
Ugh. How dare you suggest that the atheist worldview has no difference between chemicals and big complex things which yield a consciousness with the capacity to suffer. I mean, gosh, what you're suggesting is just so stupid. It would be like saying, well, this cake, its ingredients are just nothing. There's no difference between this cake and it's the raw ingredients that the cake came from, so it shouldn't taste delicious. It tastes just as bad as the raw ingredient.
Like everyone who calls himself an atheist, they ultimately crave justice.
Because if this fizz is wrong, well, bloody murder.
Yeah. And craving for justice, that really shows at the foundational level that, hey, they're not really as atheists as they would like us to believe. There's no such thing as an atheist or an agnostic. They know that there's a God. They're just suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
And they prove that because they're acquainted with judgments, absolutes, standards, which could never be accounted for in strict material.
What does justice have to do with being an atheist? I mean, many people hate these people and are angry at the actions of these people, whether they believe in a God or not, because these people have gone and caused all this damage, and it's caused destruction to the communities. And that affects us, and thus we want that to be rectified. I mean, how does that invalidate atheism calling for justice? That's just so asinine. It would be like me saying, well, you guys, you show that you don't really believe in a God because you've done this video trying to glorify yourselves and get attention and glory for yourselves with this pathetic comedy act, which in actual fact is just the two of you shaking soda and making a mess like a pair of tits.
So, Pat, what is the root cause of atheism in your worldview?
The root cause is stupidity, a complete lack of imagination, a stunted, feral view of the world that amounts to self-inflicted moral and mental disablement.
You know, the only worldview feral enough to make humans act like animals is the one that believes that humans come from animals. Because that gives no basis for believing that murder and stealing is wrong.
Hey, Pat, I would be willing to bet that most of the people that are out there doing the rioting are actually subscribers to your videos and to your worldview.
Having an explanation for the diversity of life and understanding that we have common ancestry with animals doesn't make people want to not abide by moral codes of and ethics. Give me a break. I mean, the people doing the rioting, I doubt they even know what evolution is. I doubt they have much of an education at all. The ones I heard being interviewed were really stupid. And, I mean, as for the guys, oh, I bet the people doing the rioting had your worldview. Well, why don't we ask them? I mean, that's just complete speculation on your part. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to ask them and they would have said that they did believe in a God. The thing is, these people were not very smart. Some of them seemed to have an understanding of what they were doing was wrong. When they were asked, how would you feel if someone trashed your home, they said they'd feel awful. But whenever you tried to pin them down on it, as the interviewers did, they sort of just snuck their way out by saying, oh, well, I wrote a CV and they ignored me. So since I can't get attention with a CV and doing things by the books, I'll get their attention this way. Another woman said she was getting her taxes back. And as for atheism being the worldview that leads to destruction, right, so what about the Salem witch trials? That was a worldview there where people thought that they'd go and burn people, suspecting them of witchcraft. And what about the people in Africa who are having their children, having horrible rituals performed on their children because they think their children are possessed, or drilling into their brains. So, in summary, it wasn't the lack of religion or gods, belief in gods, that caused people to go and loot and riot. It would have been the lack of empathy, the lack of respect, and the lack of intelligence, combined with, for those who weren't regular offenders or regular gang partitioners, it probably would have just been an exciting adrenaline rush. We get angry at these people and we condemn and punish these people because, unlike soda cans, which don't have a comprehension, these people can respond to condemnation. It can be the first step in rehabilitating and changing their ways. I just can't believe you made that comparison. It was that stupid. That's it then. I'm gonna go to Christchurch and hit the beach. See you all later.